Camino Portuguese lessons. Lesson number 1, acceptance of what is. This lesson for me was not new. However, I feel that I gained an even deeper understanding of acceptance during my Camino Portuguese. I remember on day 3, I was in an albergue. I'd left an albergue, I should say, in Azambuja, just north of Lisbon. And I had done some laundry, and I had to hang out the laundry in different places because most people had gotten there much, much earlier and were all organized and everything. And I was with a group that we were hiking at a good pace. However, we were just saying not as quick as some of the others, and that was okay with me. And bottom line is, I forgot my shorts. So I was about an hour into the hike after leaving that albergue, which is basically a hostel, and I was like, crap, I forgot my shorts. Do I go back? I'm like, no. Bottom line is I got those shorts for free years ago, so that helps. But bottom line is that's the only pair of shorts I brought for this trip. So I just chose right then and there. It's like, well, it's pointless getting mad. It's pointless getting pissed off. I left them there. Things happen. Bottom line is I do have money to buy new shorts, so I told myself, you know what, I'll just buy a new pair of shorts in Porto, which I ended up doing. I went to a Decathlon store, got a similar pair of shorts for €7, which is like $10 Canadian. I also realized that same morning that I lost my jacket the day before. My backpack has this ventilation space in the back, which I love, especially when I'm doing day hikes in the Rockies back home. And what I did on the first couple days is I put a few things in that space without securing them. So I put my jacket in there the first couple days, and I realized that it must have slipped out during day 2. And this is a really nice jacket. It's a 2-ply Gore-Tex. I've only had it for a month. So there again, I realized that almost at the same time that I had lost my shorts. I'm like, holy crap, I lost my jacket. So there again, it's like, do I choose to get mad? Do I choose to get angry? And I thought, you know what? It is what it is. And I think by that point, I think it was more than an hour. I think I had hiked for like 2 hours that morning when I realized both of those things. Don't get me wrong, if it was like 10 minutes or something, I would have hiked back. But 2 hours, anyways, so there again, I thought, okay, it sucks. However, I can buy a new one if I want somewhere along the way. And I ended up getting a poncho in a smaller town before I got to Porto. Because between Lisbon and Porto, I was fortunate to have sunny weather pretty well the whole time, no rain. But bottom line is I kept thinking, okay, chances are in a almost 1 month trip hiking outside, I'm going to get some rain at some point. So I bought a poncho, and that was sufficient. At that same albergue, the one where I left my shorts, I remember sleeping at the albergue. I hadn't slept in a hostel type environment for quite a while, and I had budgeted this trip to be able to stay in pensions, private rooms, and budget hotels. However, I told myself, you know what, I want to stay in hostels, albergues some of the time, mainly to meet other hikers, or pilgrims as we're known. And so that night I put in my trusty earplugs, I went to sleep, and I got to sleep really fast. It was a long, hot day, that day into Azambuja. And at 3 a.m., I was awakened by what I thought was a freight train, and it was a loud, snoring, big German man who I had briefly met the night before. So, of course, I was initially a little bit pissed off and angry. First of all, that my earplug came out. Second of all, that there's this guy snoring like a freight train. And this was a room. There was 14 of us, 15 of us. It was just one big room. Everyone else was on a bunk bed except for a few of us. I had a pull-out cot. So there again, I just remind myself, you know what? I chose to stay in this hostile albergue environment. I knew that I'd be sleeping with other people. I could have stayed in a budget hotel that night on my own if I chose to. But I thought I have to accept this, which I did. And on the stretch between Lisbon and Porto, there were some very boring stretches along the highway. And I know a few other hikers were really complaining about that. And I chose not to complain. I chose to accept that because I knew that it would be like that based on the research I had done. I knew that not every single piece of this 600 kilometer plus journey would be beautiful. And I knew that this particular trail, it's not a trail on its own. Most of this whole trail goes on existing roads and paths. So it's not a trail that was created out of the forest or what have you. So I just accepted that. And on that same stretch between Lisbon and Porto, there were literally hundreds of barking dogs. I remember one morning, I heard a few dogs barking literally for an hour. It's like they were in the distance and they could see me and they just kept barking. And there again, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to simply accept this. I can't change this. These dogs are probably doing this all the time. There's people hiking through here all the time. And that particular stretch, there wasn't a ton of people hiking, but there's still, I'd say 10 or 20 people a day minimum. And this stretch coming into Santiago, before my last day, I had 5 days in a row of intermittent rain, including some really heavy downpours. And I noticed there was often other hikers would stop to wait it out, or they would take a rest day to wait it out, and that's great, if they have the time, etc. But I just told myself, you know what, by that point, I thought, unless something physically happens to me, I'm going to reach Santiago, which was my target. And I thought, you know what, I am just going to keep going. I've got good rain gear. Yes, top half of my body might get a little bit wet, but everything inside my pack that's important was in multiple layers of waterproofing, etc. So I knew that would not get wet, including my passport, cash, you name it. So I just chose to keep going, and I'm grateful that I did. I'm grateful that I had that persistence, and I'm grateful that I just accepted the weather. Because I noticed even on the first part of the Camino Portuguese, we had some hot days where it was like close to 30 Celsius, like 85, 86 Fahrenheit, and a few of the hikers were really complaining about how hot it was. And I thought, you know what, we can't change the weather. We can only accept the weather and keep going. So thank you for watching this video. Just a reminder, if you are not aware, I do have other videos related to my Camino Portuguese experience. I'll link some of those below. Take care and be well.